So today, in this module, we're going to see that how to do a single node setup, right? So we are going to talk about that how to install Hadoop on a single machine, okay, or that's known as sudo mode. So yep. So first and foremost, so we gonna see that how to bring up the machines on AWS, and then we will see that how to install Hadoop, Java, and what are the various prerequisites which we have to do before we start installing Hadoop, right? So let me bring up the slides. So I believe, guys, you have gone through my first module videos, yes, right? Yes. And you have understood that what is Hadoop, what is distributed computing system, what is data localization, and a couple of topics as well, right? Which was there as a part of your first module. You guys have any doubts in that? No. Couple of doubts are here, but we can do okay. So we're gonna talk about that. We are going to install Hadoop on a. We are going to see sudo mode or single node Hadoop setup. So I hope everyone understand what do we mean by node. A node refers to a physical machine. A node can also refers to your virtual machine, right? Where your Hadoop is installed. So for example, you can have a Windows host on a machine. Okay, so this is your Windows host, and on this Windows host machine, you can have a couple of other virtual machines running, right? You have virtual machines running, you know how to do that, right? Using VMware player and all. So here you can install several virtual machine players, virtual machines, and then you install Hadoop, and that can be you can install on one node, that becomes a single node. You install in all the nodes, it becomes a multi-node Hadoop setup. So we're gonna see that how to install Hadoop, how to install a single node Hadoop setup, right? And for that we are going to use the machines on AWS. So I am going to show you that how to procure the machines, and um, what kind of instances you can use, and what are the various security groups, all those stuff, right? So I hope, but before going further, you need to have Amazon AWS account. So on this page, once you log in, so this is your AWS page. So on this page, once you log in, you can go to your services. So this is a login page. When, huh? Yeah. So now once you log in, so you onto AWS console. So you will land up on this page. You can click on here, and then it will list to the services. You can click on you have to click on EC2. You can always go from services, and again you can click on EC2. So elastic, which EC2 stands for elastic compute, and then on the left hand side you have an instances. Okay, so you click on the instances, and here you can now you can go for a launch instance in this button. So once you click on the launch instances, there are various AMIs, Amazon machine instances. So there are various AMIs which are readily available. right? And which you can use it for your purpose. You don't have to worry about that. So for the um, what do you say for the uh, our Hadoop setup, we're gonna talk about, we're gonna see, we're gonna need couple of OS. What OS we are going to use? We are going to use a Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Yeah. So the OS for our Hadoop setup is, we are going to use a Red Hat 7. Okay, Rails 7 OS we are going to use it, and if you see here, that's the third second itself, it gives me Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7.3, HVM and SSD volume. That's fine. So I'm gonna select this, and please understand that we need to work with 64-bit OS. The bit type would be 64-bit OS. The reason is Ambari or a Cloudera Manager, if you are working Cloudera Manager, they works on a 64-bit OS. Okay, so you can go with the 32-bit, but please understand that Ambari requires a 64-bit OS, right? So because Ambari runs on 64-bit OS only. Okay, I can select this. Once I select, I need to configure the instances, what kind of instances you want and everything. And again, for Ambari to run, you cannot go for, this is a free one, free trial eligible. You can see the t2.micro and everything. And it shows you there are CPUs, memory, and a lot of other stuff. What is the network performance? So right now we are going to work with the Apache Hadoop. But still, I wanted to have a moderate network. I can go with the I generally go with M3.X large machines, which is a 4 CPUs and 16 GB, 15 GB RAM with a 80 SSD, 80 GB SSD, and the network is high. So I generally go with this and M3.X large machine, and then you can click on the configure instance details. So what you have done is, what OS you wanted to do, what OS you wanted to use it, you have chosen that OS, and then you have chosen that what kind of machines you are looking out for, and then you now came to a conclusion, or you came up to this, that I would like to go for a 16 GB machine and high network throughput machine I wanted. So I click on this M3.X large machine. I can click on configure instance detail, how many number of instances we require. I require only one instance, so I'm going to say one. If you want more, I can say 3, 4, whatever. I need one. Rest you can leave it as of now. Then you can click on the add storage. 30 GB is fine, but 10 GB is also fine for our first exercise. We are not going to do much. We are just going to download the Hadoop uh, uh, tarball and JDK, so that will not be more than few GBs. Maybe it will close to around 1 GB, so that's fine. We can work with the 10 GB. Then we can say add tags is nothing but the name. So I'll say Apache Hadoop installation. Apache Hadoop single node installation. So as some meaningful name you can give it. And then configure security group. So this is where what all ports you would like to open. Of course, the one basic port which is already open is a SSH. So that you can SSH the machine, right? You can add the rules later, or you can, if you want to add the rules, you can add now. Or if you say, I want to keep it open, everything open, that means to say that anyone can connect from anywhere. Then you can say all TCP. You can see that source is anywhere, and that's it. Everything is open. Generally, if you want to make a few say, secure, or you just wanted to open couple of ports only, so you can custom TCP rule, you TCP, and then port range you can have 5070 from anywhere. The 5070 port is for the name node web UI. So the port which I have opened is a 5070 for the name node web UI. Similarly, I will open up the 8088 port, which is your resource manager web UI port. Yeah. If in while configuration, if you are going with the default, then you have to open this, or else if you know that which port you are going to open or which port you would like to run your resource manager on, you can open that port, right? I can add another rule which says 8088, and you can go anywhere. Again, I can add one more TCP rule for 8080 port, and anywhere I can add couple of other rules like 80 port anywhere. Right, so I have opened this, I have given this, and if something does not work, we can always come back and change our security group, and then we can open that port which we require, and then that will work without restarting your AMI. So that's fine. So you can come and change your rules anytime. So, and I say review and launch, and once it is asking me to review, so 13 ECUs, 4 CPUs. Yes, these are all virtual machines. And these are the custom security groups, instance details, tags. You can click on the tags. The tag is, I have given the name, and this is Apache. This is your storage. Instance details is this. It's okay. I'm going with the public IP. So all those things, that's fine. I'm not worried about these things because that's, I want to procure some machine. So I have procured with the basic settings. Now I say launch, and when it is asking a launch, so please understand that you need to have a key pair. I'm already using the key pair which I have it. In case if you don't have it, you can always say create a new key value pair, and then you give a key value pair name, right? And you have to download that key value pair and keep it for your references, or else you with that key value pair only you will be able to log into your AWS, or else if you lose that key value pair, you will not be able to log into your AWS machine. So it's very important to that you keep your this key value pair always with you. So I will choose the one which I have already have, and I acknowledge that I have access to the selected private key file, and without this, and it says that, and that without this file I won't be able to log into my instance, and that's it. So I say launch instances, and it will take a couple of seconds to launch the instance. And once the machines are installed, then we will start our installation. So we'll start our installation, what all things we require as a part of our Hadoop installation. I can click on running instances. Right now it is not fully initialized, so running it says, and you can always see that right here. The public DNS has been assigned. This is your public DNS. Now,
So actually, I want to check. We saw this public DNS. Is it like EC2 something like that? Can we make any other name to it, or it is always provided by?
You can change your host name to some meaningful name, but it will give you first this one only. Okay, and then let me. I generally keep all this configuration in a file. You don't have to do it on a Windows machine. I am doing it for my purpose here. On a Windows, you have to use different way to log in. Okay. So if you have seen here, so the way you will the way you will use in your Windows machine, so it's like you have to let me write down the steps here. So what you on Windows, what you need to do is you will use putty. Okay, you will use putty, or if you want, or putty, whatever you would like to pronounce, you will use putty, and then you will from the AWS you will be getting the PEM file. You will download the PEM file. Okay, and you need to convert this PEM file, to PPK file using putty key generator. Again, you have to download this putty key generator. Give the input give the input as your PEM file. It will give you the PPK file, which you can save it. Save this file. Then Then open the putty, and you under SSH tab, you need to give the location of your PPK file. That's a straightforward. If you don't, if you're not able to do it, let me know. But it's a, you should be able to do it. That's pretty straightforward. Right now, I'm using a Mac, so it's for me. It's like SSH is inbuilt functionality, and I will be able to do that. Now, what I will do here, if you see that vi config, I have created a, just to give you that what I am going to do. It will be different on your Windows, but on Mac, I have given the host name. I have a config file wherein I have given this the host as my name node. The host name, if you have observed, I have cut copy pasted from my AWS console here, right? I have cut copy pasted here. User is EC2 user, because when you log in, the default user is your EC2 user, and the identity file, if you see here, this is nothing but the PEM file. Using this private key file only, I will be able to log in. So that's why I have given like this. It's a shortcut to provide in Mac it to give like this, and then you say SSH name node, and I will be able to log into my machine. PPK file in the under SSH tab. You have to, so if you have observed here, when you I have given you, when you launch an instance here, you need to give a key pair file, right? So that key pair file, you can name anything. That can be anything, but it has to be taken from your AWS, because AWS should recognizes that file, right? Now, if you see that here, when I do an SSH name node, when I did an SSH name node, right? So it has asking me to, are you sure you want to connect? I type yes, and if you see here, now I am on my EC2 machine. So you can say who am I command to figure out who is the user. If you want to say what is the host name of the machine, you can say this is my host name. I want to see what is the bit type of the machine. I say uname minus a, and that gives me the x86 and 64, which basically says that you are working with 32-bit. You are working with 64-bit machines, right? So what you have observed, uname minus a command, wherein in the uname minus a, you have observed that x86 underscore 64, it basically says that you are working with 64-bit OS machines. Instead of that, if you get i586 or i386, if you get these kinds of numbers, that means you are working with 32-bit OS. Is that clear? Yeah. Now, similarly, I would like to know cat etc Red Hat release. Do I have that? Yes, Red Hat release. So I'm working with the Red Hat Linux Server 7.3. So that's how I can find out about the machines. I can always say ncpu command. I believe it should be there. No, CPU nproc. I'm very sorry. Nproc command. It will tell you how many processors you have. So it tells me that it's a 4 processors, right? I can run the top command to figure out. I can press 1 here, guys. If you see that, I'm pressing 1 right now, so it will tell me all the 4 CPUs. You can see that I right now it's going to only one CPU. I press 1, it shows me the CPUs. But I'm interested in what is that machine, what is the RAM here. So what is the total? Total is 15 GB RAM, right? So that's how, yeah, 15 GB RAM which I have given, correct? So I have figured out some of the know-how of my machine, what kind of machines we are working with. Now, let us go with the installation. But before the installation, we are going to understand that what all things are required for what are the prerequisites to work with to do a Apache Hadoop installation, right? So in this module, so we are going to say prerequisites. What is a Java installation? Creating dedicated user for Hadoop, passwordless SSH key creation, configuring Hadoop, starting Hadoop cluster, and then we are going to see the UI, and then finally we'll see that how to stop the Hadoop cluster. Okay. So right now the installation steps are provided for CentOS 7, but we are using a Red Hat 7, which I have shown you. The installation steps are for 64-bit OS. I have shown you that we are working with 64-bit OS. The commands are marked in blue, they're in italics. And right now we don't have the username training, but which user we are working with? We are working with EC2 user. Sorry, who am I? Oh. So it's a who am I? That what happened? I'm very sorry. UMAMI 3 times. Okay, typing mistake. Typo. So okay. So now, so as you have already seen in the first module that Hadoop follows a master slave model, right? So you have one master machine, you can have several slave machines, and I think in the module one, I may you might have understood that um, here they can be only one master and several slaves, but you have a couple of master processes, right? There are two master processes. There are two master processes: name node and the resource manager, right? And name node is your HDFS master. Resource manager is your yarn master, correct? So what is the two properties of HD? What is the two properties of any master process? That they are single point of a contact and they are single point of a failure, correct? Single point of a contact basically means that any operation, if I'm saying name node is a master process and he's a single point of a contact as well as single point of a failure, what does it mean? It means that if I have to do, name node is HDFS master, right? So HDFS is a file system. So any operation which you are doing in the HDFS, it has to go through the name node. That's what is a single point of a contact means. Single point of a failure, it means that if the name node is down, you will not be able to perform any operations, right? Similarly, when I'm saying that resource manager is also a single point of a contact and a single point of a failure, what does it mean? Resource manager is your yarn master. Yarn stands for yet another resource negotiator. Now, what does it mean when we say resource manager single point of a contact and single point of a failure? It means that when you're submitting any kind of a jobs, so every request has to go through a resource manager. That means it's a single point of a contact. Is a single point of a failure. What does it mean? It means that if resource manager is not running, then you will not be able to submit the MapReduce jobs. Correct. Now you have Hadoop 1.x. The various versions of Hadoop you will see. Some starting with the Hadoop 1.x, Hadoop 2.x. We are talking about major version being the one, like 1.0.3, 1.1.1. So those we are referred to as a Hadoop 1.x. Hadoop 2.x, like which starts with having 2.0.1, 2.6.7, 2.1.0, so on and so forth. So those are Hadoop 2.x. In the Hadoop 1.x, you have only one name node and you have only one job tracker. In case of 1.x, you don't have a resource manager. It was a job tracker. So you have only one name node, one job tracker. And if the name node goes down, entire thing goes down. But in the Hadoop 2.x, you have HDFS HA concept, wherein you can have more than two name nodes running. Sorry, more than one name node can be run in an active passive fashion. In an active and passive fashion, which means that if one of the name node is active, another name node is in passive. Let's say I'm saying name node 1, name node 2. Name node 1 is your active name node. Name node 1 is your active name node. Name node 2 is your passive. Name node goes down for some reasons. Name node 2 will become active.
It will become active
Automatically.
right?
Yeah. So HDFS HA, that's shows HA concept. Clear? Okay. Right now with 2 only it's supported. Only 2 name nodes can be run. Now it's supported only 2, not more than that. And now let us get comfortable with some of the terminologies. In pseudo mode, what do you mean by pseudo mode, guys? Single node. What is a node? Physical machine or some virtual machine, right? It single node is acting both as a master as a slave. So it basically means that you are going to configure that single machine to act both as a master machine and it's also act as a slave machine. And we will see that how why I'm saying that. But remember, you have a two master process, name node and the resource manager. So they are master processes. These are master machines we are talking about. Okay. So master process. Don't get confused. It will be little confusing, but it's okay. It will get clarified in maybe in a couple of classes. So master machine, the machine master machine is also referred to as a name node machine. Or in other words, the machine where the name node process is running, the machine where name node process is running is referred to as a master machine. Similarly, slave machines are also referred to the data node machines. It means that the or you can say the machines where data node processes are running, they are referred to as a slave machines. Clear? I am also believe that you know that HDFS is managed by how many processes? Name node, data node, and the secondary name node. And the resource manager or the yarn framework is managed by two processes: resource manager and the node manager. Right? So these are the five processes. I think you remember that, right? Yeah.
So actually, I have one question. The secondary name node, it runs on different
Machine on
machine, right?
Yeah. Right now, when I'm saying it's a pseudo mode setup, it means that all the five processes are going to run on the same machine. Name node will be running here, data node, secondary name node, resource manager, node manager. All these five processes will be running on the same machine itself. That's your single node. For some reasons, I don't know why the pen is not coming up. Yeah. So the prerequisites are, first and the foremost, you are going to edit the SC Linux file and make sure that everything is allowed by changing the property of SC Linux to from enforcing to disabled. I'm going to show you this. So this is the file etc sysconfig SC Linux, and there are a couple of other ways like set enforce 0. You can also do it for disabling the SC Linux. This is also permitted.
So we have to do it with the same file, this configuration file.
No, it's a command. Set enforce 0 is a command. So you will be running as a root user. So SC Linux, you have to disable it first, or else most of the times you will not be able to install most of the many of the softwares like JDK does not get installed. So whenever you see that some of the libraries are not getting some error comes up, like shared library cannot open the shared library. Whenever you encounter this kinds of error, that means SC Linux is working. Cannot open shared library. If this kind of error comes, that means you that SC Linux is enabled. Yeah, so you have to disable it, and then this you have to do it, and then you have to work with the SSH. And you say sudo yum minus y install open. This is open SSH hyphen server or open hyphen SSH. And let me just figure it out. I think it's little wrong here. So I'm going to say sudo yum list grep. Yeah, open SSH hyphen server and open SSH hyphen clients. Open SSH hyphen server. So you need to install that, but it's anyways installed on our EC2. So we will not worry about that. Then you start your SSH service. Once you install, you can start it. Yeah. Which one? Same file. Yeah, it's enforcing. You can always say sudo set enforce 0 and sudo get enforce. You can always say set sudo get enforce permissive. Okay. Okay, and then you need to work with the Java. So please understand that OpenJDK also comes with a lot of distributions like Ubuntu, CentOS, and everything, Fedora. But Hadoop might work with the OpenJDK, but the ecosystems of Hadoop like HBase, Storm, and other stuff might not work with the OpenJDK. So it's better it works with the JDK, Oracle JDK or Sun JDK. You better install the Oracle JDK and the JDK 1.6. And it's very wrong here. It's basically your um, it should be since we are working with the 64-bit, right? So we have to download the 64-bit JDK. So what we will do, we will say Google and we will say download JDK 8, download JDK 1 dot, okay, JDK 8, and then you can click on this. Once you accept the license, then you will see which JDK you would like to install. So ours is a Linux, and please note that here 64, right? So here we can use the one which we wanted for Linux 64. If your OS is a Red Hat, CentOS, or Fedora, if it is a Solaris, you can go with what? If you're Mac, you can go with these things, right? So you have all the JDKs available for your OS, so you will download this.
So I have one question. For the distribution, there is .r.gz and
RPM.
So which one should we
Dot tar dot gz. It's a manual distribution, right? You can, yes. So when you install, so RPM has an advantage that it automatically updates can also come. Tar dot gz will not come. Yeah. So we'll see that how to install Java with a straightforward with that tar dot gz, and we'll see that as a part of our hands-on. So, but in this slide, it's sufficient to understand that you need to work with the Oracle JDK. Yeah. And the second thing, which does not, which you need to understand, that you need to disable the IPv6. Hadoop works only with the IPv4 enabled machines. It does not work with the IPv6 till now. Okay, so if it is running, you have to disable that. But right now, you don't have to worry because most of the OS will have IPv6 disabled. But in case, you can run this command to check that you are doing a cat operation. So you need to check that by the contents of this file. If it is 0, that means it's disabled. If it is 1, that means what you have to do, you have to open this file and give these entries, and then you start your HTTPD service. So it will be disabled. Just straightforward. So you don't have to worry right now. But in case, I'm just telling you as a matter of to just complete everything, you should know that IPv6 also has to be disabled. Okay, so configuring SSH, and this is one thing which is which we are doing it, that when we are configuring SSH, so what does it do? Nodes in the Hadoop cluster communicates using SSH. Okay, so so when starting and stopping the processes, so please understand here. So here, so when you are nodes in the Hadoop cluster will communicate. So whenever you start and stop the processes, right? So from this machine to this machine, it will do an SSH, and it will start and stop the processes. Yeah. Now let us let me just tell you what is the problem here. That why we have to go for a passwordless SSH key. So let's say you have a scenario. You are in India, right? So let's say you are in India, sitting in India, and there are 100 machines in US. And in these 100 machines, you have to start and stop the processes. What is the best way? Best way is you fly to US, physically present in front of database, and then you log in into one of the machines, each of the machines, and start and stop the process. That's the best way. But generally, right? Generally, for this big thing, where people does not pay us, so the company doesn't pay me. So they ask me that, boss, sitting in India, how can you do it? Show me your intelligence. So you don't have any other options, but what you do is to do an SSH. So that's the first option, which no one agrees. Second option is you will say, sitting here on your laptop, you say SSH to machine 1. Let's say this is machine 1 IP address, IP address 2, IP address 3, IP address 4. So you say SSH to machine 1. Now, as soon as you do SSH to machine 1, it will ask you username and password. For each and every machine, it will ask you the username and the password. 100 machines, so you have to enter 100 times username and password. That's again a very cumbersome operation. So you will not do that. The third thing, what you will do, you will keep the username same. So you will say, let's say training is the user here. I will also create the training user here, training user here, training user here. In all the 100 machine, I will have the training user. Now you do an SSH to machine 1, that's your IP address, then it will not ask you the username, but it will ask you the password. And again, you have to it will be a cumbersome activity of entering the password. So if you want to do this activity, you generally go for a passwordless SSH key, which means that you have to do the communication without, when you are SSHing, it will not ask you the password. When you are SSHing, it will not ask you the password. Is that clear? If you have observed, when I have logged in onto my AWS machine, it didn't ask me the password, right? It's a private key. Using the private key, it was able to, I didn't ask me the password. That's another way of doing the communication, right? So right now, when Hadoop starts the processes, when Hadoop is going to start the processes, though it's a single machine, name node is there, right? In a single machine, you have all the 5 processes: name node, data node, secondary name node, resource manager, and job tracker, right? So when you start the processes, it will mimic the SSH, assuming that it's a slave machine. So it will do an SSH to that slave machine, though it's the same machine. It will do an SSH, and then again it will ask you the it will ask you username and password. But we are going to configure the SSH in a way that it will not ask us the password.
So this we are doing SSH passwordless so that the process can also communicate to each other without
Not the process, but only for starting and stopping the processes, SSH is required, or else there is no use of SSH altogether. Okay, so you are going to create the passwordless SSH key, like SSH hyphen keygen minus T RSA minus P, like this. And then you have this, we'll create 2 files, ID underscore RSA, ID underscore RSA dot pub, and then whatever. I mean to say, when you run this command, it will ask you to create it will ask you to, it will create 2 files. One is a private key and the public key. Okay, and then then you can copy the contents of your public key to an authorized key file. This is recognized by your Hadoop. This file name is recognized by Hadoop. Okay, and then you give the permission, and the permission also, you have to make sure that the permission, when you are doing it, the permission should not be too restrictive or too open. Okay, so the permission to the file is very important here, guys. The permission of the file should not be too restrictive or too open. Should not be too restrictive or too open. If the permission set to the file is too restrictive or too open, you will not be able to do communication in a passwordless manner. Okay, so you need to make sure that the permission which you have given is not too restrictive or too open. For example, 777, read write execute, read write execute, read write execute. This is the user permission, this is a group permission, this is the others permission. Everyone has the execute permission, so it's a very open permission. And let's say permissions like 444, only read permission, right? Read write execute, read write execute, read write execute. So you have 100, right? 100, 100, that's a 444. Only everyone has a read permission, so it's a very strict permission, so you don't do that. So couple of things like 600 is also valid. Okay, so once you do an SSH, so you can verify by running the SSH localhost command. Let me just tell you here. I'll log into my machine and I say SSH localhost. So okay. So it's a permission denied. Can you see that? Right? So I can always, it's not allowing me SSH localhost. And if I go to my cd.ssh, I don't have anything, right? You can see that. I can always say, I don't know whether SSH will, I'm on AWS, there's a tricky part of the configuring SSH, because I did an SSH to the key file, right, from my machine, right? And now I'm going to, let me change it, SSH, okay, SSH hyphen keygen minus T, yeah, I know, minus T RSA minus P. I'm RSA, okay, and I go to cd.ssh. I have told you when I run this command, it's gonna create two files, um, id underscore RSA and id underscore pub, and then I do cat id underscore RSA dot pub to authorized underscore keys, and then ls minus ltr. That's the permission. 6 is permission. Now let me say SSH localhost. Can you see that it didn't ask me any password this time? And when I say exit, connection to localhost closed. So that means my SSH passwordless SSH key is working.
So actually,
Please mention, please see this permission as well of your authorized keys. Yes.
I want to see we generate the public private key, but everything is in the cloud itself.
Yeah,
So
everything
how
is in the.
we generated those public private keys in the AWS. So can we use those public private key in your in my
When
local
you
to connect that
you
like
can
another put key? So can I use?
you have to do that actually. When you are logging onto your AWS, then you have to use the public private key. But for this, you are saying
Yeah. Why we are doing it here?
when you will start the processes, it will ask the username and password. As I've told you, right? I've given the example. When it is going to start the processes onto the same machine, it will again ask you the username and password, because host name we are going to use as a local host.
So this requirement is because
Yeah.
of the Hadoop, right?
Yeah. We can always work with your. I will show you the other way of doing this installation using your key file itself. Yeah. So wherein you have to use the key file, you have to use your key file to communicate to other machine. When you do a multi-node Hadoop setup,
Yeah, exactly.
then you have to use the key file. So that's other way. But I'm just going with the whatever we have right now, the basic thing. So if you take up this and you do it in the virtual machine, the same steps remains the same. The steps remain the same, right? And then you can download the Hadoop tarball, whatever the version of the Hadoop, and then extract it. And then we are going to see the various XML files which we have to download. What are the various XML files which we have to configure? What we're gonna do now is we'll open our hands-on documents and it's gonna show you. Can you see that, right?
Yeah. slides, right?
I'm gonna open the hands-on document, and what we'll do is to start installing the Hadoop and start installing. It's a straightforward. Okay, so I'm gonna download it, the Oracle JDK, right? So first and the foremost, you have to install the wget command. So you can install the wget command because it's not already been there.
So actually, I have one question. When we use AWS, so AWS has all the access to the internet.
Yeah,
We can
we have configured, right?
configure.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do anything
No.
to make it
No.
accessible to internet.
Yes, we don't have to do as of now anything. So wget I have installed, and then I will say wget minus no check certificate. I'm downloading the JDK
So this speed which you are saying, 17 or 18 Mbps, so it is from the
from
AWS.
AWS,
It's not
not
your,
from your network. Then what I'm going to do here is, so if you see here, your JDK has been installed. So you can say tar minus zxf JDK 8. You have let it, it's extracting, and then you do an ls to find it out. Yes, it has extracted. Then you can move on to your user local Java folder. So what I'm going to do here is sudo mv jdk. I'm moving to user local Java, right? And that's my Java location. I can also now I can download uh, the Hadoop. So that's the location. And we are downloading which version of Hadoop? 2.7.0. No, that's not the latest one. So we are going to. I'm using the just for the explanation purpose. There's a last stable version, and here it's my Hadoop has been Hadoop has been present. You can see that it has been downloaded, and I now extract it tar minus zx vf. This time I can do it just for verbose. Yeah, so it will print everything what it is extracting. Hadoop 2.7.0 it has extracted, and now you can move on to your user local Hadoop folder. I'm moving to my user local Hadoop folder, and that's it. You have extracted and you have moved on to some location, user local, so that is accessible to any user. Now, in future, if some other user comes, you don't have to worry about that because for him also Hadoop will be installed. Right now, I'm gonna open up my bash rc file wherein I am gonna mention that environment variables. Right, environment variables are useful because so that it's available to everyone. Most of the programs uses environment variables to determine where the Hadoop is there, where Java is there, and everything. So I'm gonna say, so what I'm doing here, guys, I'm exporting the home of my Java. This is a variable name and the location, as I've shown in the previous command, that we have moved our JDK to this location, and that's my Java home. And I'm also appending to the system's path variable what is a bin folder. The reason I'm doing this, why I'm appending my bin folder of Java to the system's path variable, so that whenever I run the Java command, I don't have to go to that particular folder in the Java command. What I just need to do from anywhere, because it is a part of my environment variable. Similarly, what I'm doing here, I am declaring one environment variable by name Hadoop underscore home, and the value of that variable is user local Hadoop. And in the previous command, I have shown you that we have moved our Hadoop after extracting our Hadoop tarball. We have moved it to that particular location. And similarly, I am putting Hadoop bin folder and I'm appending Hadoop bin folder and the Hadoop S bin path to my system's path variable, because you will see that when I will take it up, I will show you the directory structure, that how does it looks like. Okay, so that directory structure, in the bin and the sbin folder, we have the starting and the script files, the start and the stop scripts files, execution scripts are there, which we want to use it from anywhere. That's the whole intention of putting systems path variable or this bin folder location. Now I have saving this file, and last thing I have to tell the OS that these are my new environment variables files. So that's why you are saying the source command. And now to verify, you can say echo $hadoop underscore home, and it gives me the correct path, right? Similarly, you can also say echo $java underscore home, and that's the location which is giving. So that means the OS has known my environment variables. If you don't do this source bash RC command, it will not know. Yeah. Okay. Before we go, let me just take you to the directory structures of Hadoop, where all the things are present. So I'm gonna show you the directory structure, but let us see here. So if you have seen, okay, this is 2.6.0, but we are using 2.7.0, but the directory structure will remain the same. So your Hadoop is, so we are using the 2.7.0, right?
Yeah.
That's the Hadoop version, and I have already shown you that we have extracted to that particular folder. And extract this particular folder, user local Hadoop. When you open this, we'll see that there is a etc Hadoop location under this. So wherein all the XML files are present. So we'll configure our Hadoop through the XML files by giving properties. So they are present here. You can see that various XML files, MapRed, you have a core, you have a HDFS, you have master, slaves, Hadoop PNB. In the bin and has been folder, you will see that a lot of shell scripts are there, which for execution. In the logs folder, you will see all the logs when we'll start up the processes. So all the logs will be under this location. So if any processes is not starting or there is some errors, so we will go under the logs folder and inspect the corresponding process logs. You have the lib folder wherein all the third-party jars are present. Yeah. So let us go to our um, Hadoop home. So I directly, since I have created an environment variable, so I can say cd $hadoop underscore home, and you can see that I am inside that location. I have, so we are going to find out my configuration XML configuration files in the etc Hadoop folder, cd etc Hadoop, and that's my configuration files. It's better that I also create the environment variable for my this guy also, so that I don't have to again Hadoop conf, and I can directly say Hadoop conf and export some name, which is some name, and I've given this, and then I say source dot bash rc. That's it. And now from anywhere I say, you see that here I'm right now in the EC2 user folder. I say cd Hadoop conf, and I am inside my configuration files, right? I can run the command ls-ltr, and if you please observe, this is your yarn site which we are going to configure. This is your slaves, this is your MapRed, site XML, that's a template, it's HDFS, you have a core and those, right? Similarly, you have bin and sbin folder, cd bin folder. You can see here a lot of commands which we are going to use. HDFS is there, MapRed, yarn. So these are the we'll be using this command. You will be using these shells, or we'll be using these executors or executable files to run our shell commands to submit our MapReduce jobs and everything. Similarly, go to cd sbin folder. They are various script files to start and stop our processes. start all.sh. If you want to start the DFS, you have that start DFS, start yarn.sh, stop all.sh. There are a lot of commands. So there are a lot of shell script files for starting and stopping the processes. The CMD is for Windows. Okay, done. Right, guys? It's clear, no? Am I going fast? Is it okay? Yeah. Now, you have seen that there are a lot of XML files. There is no need of having separate XML files. Why they came up with separate XML files is because you have more than 1,000 plus properties to configure your Hadoop. And if someone changes in your team, if someone has changed some property, it's hard to find that which property he has changed. But instead of that, you say that which property you have changed, he will say that I have changed some yarn property. Then you don't have to go into all the XML files. You will go to one XML file and you will see that. Sometimes you wanted to see what is the value of some property. So you don't have to search the entire file. If you know the value of if you know the property name, you can go to that particular file and you can check the property name. So it's very, so what they have done is segregated the properties into various XML files. So the first is your MapRed. So all the Hadoop related properties needs to go into one of these files. So you have a MapRed-side.xml, right? So the name itself is a MapRed. What does it mean? It means that all the MapRed related properties should be specified. How do I identify out of the 1,000 plus properties? How do I identify that this property is a MapReduce related property? You need to see the prefix, and the prefix is the MapRed or the MapReduce. That means it's a MapReduce related property, and it has to specify, and it has to be specified in this XML file. Okay. For example, properties name like MapRed.job.tracker, MapRed.reduce.task, MapReduce.map.class. So in each of these properties, you see that all they are either starting with MapRed or the MapReduce, so it has to be specified in this XML file. Similarly, HDFS-XML, all the HDFS related properties should be specified. But how do I know that which property is HDFS related property? Again, you need to see the prefix of the property, and in this time, the prefix of the property is a DFS. For example, dfs.block.size, dfs.replication, dfs.host, right? So in each of these properties, you have the prefix as a DFS. That means it's an HDFS related property, and it has to be specified in this XML file. Similarly, you have seen the yarn-started.xml, wherein all the yarn related properties should be specified. And in this case, you have to see the prefix and to start with yarn. Now, the core is combining your computation and the file system. That's your computation. So, storage, you have seen in the first module, I was talking about that when you talk about Hadoop, Hadoop is basically you're talking about two internal frameworks. One is the storage framework, another is a computation framework, right? So, storage framework, both are independent frameworks, which means that Hadoop can be used for the storage only, Hadoop can be used for computation only, or Hadoop can be used for both. Now, Hadoop as a system, a big framework, it has its properties, which is core properties, which is specific to Hadoop, right? So those are core-rated properties, and all those core-rated properties should be specified in this XML file. How do I identify that which property belongs to core or not? It should have neither of a prefix of MapRed, DFS, or yarn. So whenever the property prefix does not start with any of these three, that means it's a core-related property, and it has to be specified in the XML file.
So actually, I have a doubt on this.
Yeah.
Side. Because Hadoop has two independent components. So which is the core?
Core is something like which binds, where HDFS also uses that, and MapReduce also uses that. Computation and storage both uses the framework, the system related properties. Those are core properties. And yeah, so here you can always say MapRed-default.xml. So you can bookmark this page. So let me also bookmark it here. I'll bookmark this page, and I can. So better you can create a new folder and say Hadoop and save under this. So if you see here, there are all the map related properties are specified here. Yeah. And then you have a HDFS-default. Again, you can open this, so it can be as a reference. So anytime if you want to understand about property, you can open this and you just say that. Similarly, you say these are the default property. If you don't specify it in your property XML file, then all the default values will be taken. Again, you can say come here and then you bookmark it. Similarly, you can come here and the core. I think it's so again you can bookmark this one. So whatever we have learned, you can see that none of the properties started with the HDFS, right? It's most of the time it's starting with Hadoop or IO.
So actually one thing. For example, if I'm using any of the property, can you go to that store now?
Which
Okay,
one?
when I say IO.native, I will just give an
Yeah,
example. I
any.
won't explain the property. It's a Hadoop.security. So does it mean this property is being used by HDFS component as well as by the
It's not like that. It can be some property. It's not that this guy is using that property and all. System related properties. For example, security. Security is applicable for both MapReduce users and the HDFS user. Right? So, Kerberos security is not related to HDFS only. It's still it's a system related properties. You say io.sort.factor or some memory related property. It's a system related property. So HDFS will also adhere or honor that property. Yeah. Yeah. You can always see this properties file here, and if you can see, this is a MapRed. I have to see this property and I have to tell that which file it will go. MapReduce. It will go to MapRed. MapRed-site.xml. I see this property and I know which file it will go. HDFS-site.xml. I see this file and I know where it will go. Right. So you have to identify. You need to know the property files, because later point of time when you will work with Ambari will adhere to this. So if some property has to be added, so you cannot go anywhere. You have to go to the yarn and then you open the configuration and then only you can specify. Okay. Similarly, I have shown you right now the bin and there's bin folder, right? Yeah. So bin. So you have start. Can you tell me if I say start all dot? If I just if I run this command start dfs.sh, so start all.sh will start all the processes. Name node, data node, secondary name node. You will see that when we'll install the Hadoop, resource manager, and the node manager.
So right now we have not still.
It's not. It's not done. It's not done. We have not. We have not configured our Hadoop. Yeah. Then you have a start dfs.sh, which will start how many processes? It will start HDFS only. So please, and so when you talk about Hadoop, you talk about HDFS and the yarn computation framework. HDFS is managed by three processes, namely name node, data node, and the secondary name node. And the yarn is managed by two processes, resource manager and the node manager. So when you say start DFS, it will start these three processes: name node, data node, and the secondary name node. When you stop, when you say stop DFS, it will stop these three processes. Right now, start MapRed. So we'll not talk about start because now you don't have a MapRed. You have a start yarn. So when you say start yarn.sh, it will start these two processes: resource manager and the node manager. And when you say stop yarn, it will stop this resource manager and the node manager process. Here. I'll also change it here quickly, guys, for your reference. Start open yarn.sh, stop sh. Now we'll stop it here and we will do our configuration tomorrow. Okay. So in the next module, we're gonna see that how to configure our Hadoop and start and stop and bring up our Hadoop process, bring up our Hadoop, a single node Hadoop, and we should be able to visualize our name node UI as well as the resource manager UI. And also in the next section, we are going to see that what are the properties, important properties we have to use, or we have to use to bring up our Hadoop cluster. What are, like, you have a name node address, you have replication factor, you have block size, resource manager address, and so on and so forth. So there are a couple of 5 or 6 important properties which is really required to bring up our Hadoop cluster. In the next section, we are going to see that.